At the University of Regina, the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Digital Resource Hub showcases impactful EDI initiatives across the campus.
It's a centralized, accessible resource for our community and post-secondary institutions nationally.
Join us to hear the stories behind the initiatives shaping our campus.
There are two areas that we are focusing on at the moment. One is to increase the number of female students in our discipline, in our faculty. The other one is like the indigenous students. Basically, we try to encourage more female students, indigenous students to study our undergraduate program and to become an engineer. And this is because these two groups of students are always underrepresented in our faculties. And in fact, when we look at the Engineers Canada, this is the organization that does a lot of regulating the engineering professions, that they always want to increase the proportion of the engineers who are from this background, like indigenous background or female students. So basically, these are the two major focuses that we have at the moment. Actually, we do have these research projects or design projects, basically towards the final years of our program, any engineering programs that our student will engage into a final design project. We call capstone design projects, and we try to engage them into companies that some of the chief engineers, the indigenous people, and then try to design things, systems that specific for indigenous community. For example, because they live in certain reserves, that how do they get electricity or water, clean water? So we will learn how to design system that will suit their needs. Actually, this is one thing. The other one is like research project, like this design project I've talked about, but the research projects, we try to engage into community, indigenous communities, see if okay, we can design things that they want, and then that's what we do. There's one project that I can use it as an example, that they have a greenhouse. Then they grow different sort of things, and then they need electricity, they need water, and then how do we design system that could provide them with electricity and clean water in a relatively remote area. So this is, I would argue that this is things that we do through these design projects or research projects that to connect ourselves to the that particular community. The first thing is that we have this annual Women's in Engineering event, and then we invited our own graduates who are female engineers to come to campus, share the experiences with our current students. And we invite everybody, not only women, but the male student as well, to show up and to listen to this experience, share with us. And this is what we call Women in Engineering events that we have every year in March. And then we engage into a scholarship program specifically for Indigenous and Black students. And this is once again that at the graduate level that we want to increase the proportion of Black and Indigenous students in a graduate level community. And finally, we have a ICE program. The ICE program is the program that we try to educate young people who's grade 9, grade 6, like primary school and high school students. And we have different camps that we have like pure girls camp, pure like indigenous people camp, to show them science project, like and hopefully that get them interested in science and engineering. And eventually when they come to a point that they apply to university, they would consider doing science or engineering, and this is what we do in our ICE program, and it is a program that we got a lot of support from the federal government, provincial government, and also our faculty and our university to educate younger people, that especially girls and indigenous people, that get them interested in science and engineering. Yeah, we don't have a very specific community. However, we have what we call Engineering Executive Committee, EEC we call it, and that contains myself and 2 associate dean and our director of finance and administration, 4 of us. That we have this bi-weekly regular meetings, and in which that these are one of the items that we discuss from time to time. Say, okay, at the moment, like the last meeting, we talked about how do we incorporate more indigenous element into our undergraduate engineering program. And in fact, this is what I heard from our advisory board. Like our faculty has an engineering advisory board that consists of senior executives from different companies here in Saskatchewan. So from time to time, they provide advice to us. And then this is one thing. And they told us that, in fact, I think many of us are well aware of the fact that a lot of engineering projects involve indigenous community. Right? When you build a pipeline, like pipeline is something that we talk about nowadays a lot, that the pipeline will go through a lot of lands that is, indigenous people live there. So it's always nice that we have a better understanding, their thinking, their needs, before we really engage into any big-scale engineering projects. And it would be beneficial for our undergraduate students who are aware of like what they're supposed to do or what not supposed to do, and when they are work with the indigenous community. So this is something that we talk about in our EEC community. Or committee actually. Yeah. I think over the last 10 years, that at the beginning of the 10 years period, that we had about 15% of female students in our student bodies. So today it's about 20%, which is still a low number. We want to go up to 30% at least, well, maybe in the next decade. So we can see by putting effort into this outreach program, like the ICE program I just mentioned, that I could see that more and more young girls who are interested in becoming engineers. And the message that we give out to them is like, this is a profession that you could help build things or systems to help people live better. And girls have all the required ability to contribute to this field actually. And so we see this number going up a bit, but we would be happier if it could go up even more. And ideally, that would go up to like 50%. But it might take a long time to do it. When we look at the medicine professions, 100 years ago, I think it's predominantly male medical doctors. There's only a few female medical doctors. Nowadays, it's interesting that over almost 60% of the medical doctors are female, and then 40% are male. So over 100 years of time, that particular professions, that they change the compositions of that the professions. So we want to go to the direction, that at least half and half. And also that now we see more female students who graduate from a program end up working in industry. So this is another thing. And in the old days, we found a lot of girls who completed their undergraduate program, and then they just don't get a job in engineering. So they do something else. But nowadays, we see more that they will say, okay, I can consider working as an engineer, and that's something that we feel happy about. They not only got the degree from here, but they go out and work as engineers, and that's what we want. In my faculty, our disciplines, I found out that the most challenging part is to convince people to believe that we should do this. Let me elaborate this a little bit more. Many of our students or faculty members are using a daily language is nerds. They just focus on technical stuff. They are less concerned with more humanity stuff. That's most, I would say, scientists or engineers function. That's how they think. Right? They focus on the technical stuff. They say, oh, okay, these are more humanity, right? Having more balance of female or male, having more indigenous people that will help our profession. These are not in the mindset. And that takes a long time to change, actually. And I found that is the challenge, because they say, well, actually, it would make our profession better when we have more diversity, when we have more different people working in a field, they will contribute to the field differently. But the majority of us, because by training, we are more technical oriented, and then we many of us don't think in that way until you become older, and then you start to appreciate, oh, okay, this is what we need for our professions. And that's why our Engineers Canada associations, that they push for this, because they say, well, this would benefit everybody and the society by having more diverse workforce in the engineering profession. So I would say, I assume that this sort of thing happened in the other faculty across the campus, that every field that people just focus on the things that they have a less appreciation of these factors. It's subtle, but it's important that would help us to build stronger community and stronger workforce. But they're not aware of it because they tend to focus on the things that they think is important. That's, I think, the challenge that we have, and how do we educate them so that they understand that it's just not a slogan that we say, yeah, we need more diversity. But in fact, people learn that in biology, that when you look at the forest, they have different types of trees in there to make sure that the forest is sustainable. And you cannot have only one type of trees in the forest. So, and that's basically the same situation that when you have a diverse workforce, that it make that workforce more sustainable, stronger. Give you a specific example like that. They have committees to look into this sort of thing. So they for example, they set up guidelines like 30 by 30. What do they mean by that? Is by 2030s that 30% of the newly registered engineers that they get the license should be women. Okay, and currently our numbers is at around 20%. So 2030 actually is not that far away from now. It's only 5 years more, but they want this number to go up to 30s. I see, practically speaking, it's hard to get to that number, but it's an aspirational goal, and they have committees set up all there, and tell the employers, tell us, the faculty, different engineering faculties, or this is, the goal. and then they also provide some short courses training to help us to do this actually. This is the practical things that they do, and we all understand that it takes a while, but at least we want everybody to have that mindset first, and then we move ahead like that. First of all, you learn how to appreciate the diversity, and once you appreciate that, and diversity will make us stronger, and the entire society will prosper. And that's why once you appreciate this, then you will learn and come up with ways of doing this, and eventually to achieve the goal of having a diverse workforce.